welcome to the Holly Meredith Show. Tonight you have a special privilege. I am proud to be hosting Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is a fighter in a battle in which we all must engage. He lives in England. He's on the front lines of an assault by Islamic militants that are destroying the fabric of England, destroying the future of their children, turning all of England into a madras from Saudi Arabia. It is important that you listen to what he says because he's living it. It's coming to us as well, but we are at least 15 years behind them. 15 years from now, we'll be living what he's living. This is a show you must watch, and I am proud to be bringing it to you. He is larger than I am because his message is what I want you to hear. Hi, and welcome to the Holly Meredith Show. It is my great honor, and I must say that sincerely, to be hosting Tommy Robinson from Luton in England, where he lives. I wanted him on my show specifically because he is living the nightmare that many people are not aware of and usually are not told of until it's far too late to do anything about it. When you try to do what you do, the picture that I have of you that I have up on Twitter, where you have your shorts with the British flag on it when you're being arrested.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So that was basically what that was a charity walk for a young girl, yeah? Now, when I announced the route I was going to be walking, to get from where I was walking, which was to cut across London, the most direct route would have took me through the borough of Tower Hamlets. Now, the borough of Tower Hamlets is our biggest Muslim enclave in Britain. Now, the police the night before come to Luton and said, we don't want you to walk through Tower Hamlets.
But why is that?
Because they'd had threats that I was going to be killed if I walked through Tower Hamlets. So the Muslim community, their leaders, lots of them had come out and made comments saying I shouldn't be allowed to walk through that. I shouldn't be allowed to walk through there, basically. So when the police come to see me, I told the police, let me just walk through it. I'll just get the charger because I just saw the low battery come up.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's on your side.
Yeah, that's on my side. Let me just get this charger so I can plug in. But so I told the police. So when they come to see me, from my point of view, it's like I don't really care who lives in that borough. That's just it's not just another borough of London.
Aren't you entitled to go anywhere that you want to go?
Well, that's what my point was with them, is that I'll go where I want. And if I want to walk through Tower Hamlets, then I'll walk through Tower Hamlets. And they wanted me to take like a 6-mile detour on this walk. Sorry, I'm just plugging this. They wanted me to take a 6-mile detour on this walk just to avoid going through, which what I said is you're trying to create a no-go zone.
Yep.
That I'm not allowed to walk through. And if you do that for Tower Hamlets, then...
You can do it anywhere.
I just did that. Yeah, then you're going to do it everywhere. So I just said, I'm going to turn up in the morning, I'm doing my charity walk. And that's it. And when you can hear me talking in that morning, and there's legal things they can do, any more than 2 people in this country, they can stop it.
They call it, what, they call it an assembly without a permit?
It becomes a procession, yeah. It becomes a procession.
What a crime.
So under 3 people, there's no legal powers they have to prevent it. So obviously there's only 2 of us, we're doing a charity walk, and we're walking through the city. Now, if you can hear at the start of the video, I'm talking to the police officer, and he's saying, don't go near the mosque, don't go near the mosque. So then what I say to him is, all right, you know what? Because there's the biggest mosque in London is there, and it's radical. And in this borough of Tower Hamlets, what you had the law. I don't know if you've seen about this. We had a mayor. So you have the London mayor, yeah.
That crazy one. The crazy one.
We have the London mayor, which is Boris Johnson.
I thought he was a little off.
No, yeah. We have the London mayor who's conservative. He's off his head, but he's quite
conservative. Okay.
He's conservative. But what they've done in this borough was they went and got signatures to have their own mayor for this borough, yeah? And the Muslims went door to door collecting their signatures. And they had not only the London mayor, but this borough had their own mayor. And this mayor was kicked out of the Labour Party for his extremist links to the Islamic Forum of Europe, yeah? So he's a radical. And when he got in power, they got him in, and he became in charge of £1 billion budget.
Oh my God!
It's the first real Sharia enclave. If you look up into this, if you look into it.
I'm going to.
When he got in charge, he stopped the funding to any moderate groups, multi-faith groups, and he started siphoning all the funding off, which they could do nothing about. He started selling off London property and land to friends and other groups at discount rates. I think about a month ago or 2 months ago, they come in and removed him, and they've put it in special measures. But the first thing he done when he became mayor of this borough was he put in for plans for £1 million sculptures of headscarves at either end of the borough.
Oh my God.
Yeah, at either end of the borough. So this is the borough we're talking about.
So how much money that was allocated did he get away with before they got him out of there?
Oh, £1 billion. Yeah, he's been in there for years. This has been going on for years. There's been undercover documentaries, and we were highlighting this issue for years. And then when I was most recently sitting in custody, I then watched a documentary on Panorama, which is our big undercover thing, where they showed everything we've been talking about. So we've been talking about him for years, when looking into him. And in this borough, 33% are Muslim. So but his entire cabinet and his entire staff, all Muslim. So that shows when you get to 33%, which is the first borough in London to have that percentage, they've took over the whole council. They took over everything. They even sent out letters during Ramadan asking employees not to eat or drink on council premises. So the complete Islamisation of this entire borough.
What don't the rest of the people ever say anything?
Most people are scared.
Of what?
What are
they afraid of? Are they afraid of being hurt?
When you know how they operate, which is violence, intimidation, threats, persecution, you lose your job, you lose your liberty, you lose your safety, all the things you hold dear, all the things you take for granted. The minute, I could tell you so many stories throughout the English Defence League of supporters that we've had, who they trace and track everything. They find out where you work, they find out where your wife works, your mum works. They bombard the work, they tell them, they threaten them. All these different things that make it very difficult to speak out, which is obviously, when you go through the history of the English Defence League, that's why I'm known as Tommy Robinson. Everyone now knows that's not my name. And a lot of people used to say, oh, you used a false name and you used to wear a mask. Well, yeah, because I used to like walking down the street. And I knew what was going. I knew what was going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. So you had to take measures, or else.
So you had to take measures which they act like you're stupid to save. I think in the last week I've had 3 confrontations this week. One in Argos. Argos is like an electrical superstore. One in Asda, just on day to day, because there's an aggression about Muslims, especially the youth, which you don't see. I don't see. Luton is one of the most multicultural towns in Britain. So in Luton, I've been brought up with every sort of immigrant you can think of, and the majority of them have been my best friends throughout my life. Some of my best friends are born in Jamaica, but they've come to England. And my mother was an Irish immigrant. My friends are Italian immigrants. All of my friends, we're all the sons of immigrants. But all of us who are not Muslim have been brought up loving England, and we're all English, apart from Muslims. And you can see that for Luton. So in a big melting pot where what we have, I don't know how it is in America, but we have this, when they say multiculturalism's failed, I always look at it in a different aspect, because for me it's religion that's failed. It's not because the Jamaicans who are here, the Irish who are here, the Italians who are here, the Sikhs who are here, the Hindus who are here, the Jews who are here, all these different people and races, we all get along fine. Where I've been brought up, but there's never been a racial tension amongst us. The tension comes from Islam.
The religion.
So
the religion.
It's just from Islam.
They won't accept anything else. That's the problem.
And only Islam, only Islam.
So what do you mean, when you run into any kind of face-to-face aggression, what are you actually allowed to do? I mean, nothing. You have to just
nothing.
Is that it? You just have to put up with it?
Nothing. Well, in the end now, if you've watched, you'll see where I get hit. I don't hit back, because the minute I do hit back, if I can get away with, if I'm going to get badly beaten up, I will fight back. Yeah. But if I raise my hands, I know I'm going to get charged, and I know I'll be put on a racial charge or a religious charge. It's just the way it is, and that's not just because of who I am. That's the way. That's what's been going on in the town for years.
But why does everybody put up with? That's what I'm trying to get to the heart of. I know they're afraid. I understand that. I realize they're afraid. I get it. But sometime in life, you have to just take a stand, or you'll have no life.
Well, you do, and that's what happened with the English Defence League. That's the decision I come to. It's like, at which point do you stop running? Because, say, like in a town like Luton, everyone who can is moving out of Luton. Yeah, they're all moving. So, and everyone is, and and that's what they call white flight. But in Luton, it's not white flight; it's white and black flight. Everyone who can get away from the Muslims is getting away.
But then they win. But then they win because now they have you out of there and they've got everything.
Then they win, and that's the decision we said. When do you stop running? Because you're running. Everyone's running away. So at what point do you stop running, and what point do you make a stand? And when the English Defence League formed, that was our stand, and we knew the consequences that were going to come from it. We sat as a family, me and my cousin Kevin, because we set it up together, and we shook hands that we don't put one foot in, we're putting both feet in, and once we put both feet in, they're not going to be able to take them out because you can't. So we knew it was going to be a head-on collision, and we knew the consequences that were going to come from it. If I'm honest, growing up in Luton, I know how they operate, and I know the way they work. And the only problem you have is once you show them fear, once you show that, they'll walk all over it. So I learned that very early growing up. So if I go anywhere, I walk through my hometown every day, and I do get threats and verbals, but I always say I've never run away in the town, and I always make a point of walking through every day. And I used to go and sit in a Muslim restaurant every day. I used to walk into town and sit down there and chill out because I wanted them to know that we're not running away either. Do you know what I mean? So we are here, and there were a lot in the early days. There was a lot of tit for tat problems, violence on either side. Where when we tried to make our stand, they thought they could beat you in submission. So there was a lot of issues in the early days, but then it come to a point even where I think they know that they realise that we're not backing down either, and we shouldn't have to back down because
it's your country.
But at the same time, you know what I've seen growing up, I've seen young white lads being attacked in town by a gang of Pakistani Muslims, and then when the police turn up, so these lads are victims already, yeah, they're already victims. When the police turn up, the police get out their cars, they jump on the white lads, so then they're victims again. And they're victims because the Pakistani youth and the Muslim youth can be so cocksure because they know the police are not going to jump on them. And the reason why the police are doing that is because since, I don't know if you remember the murder of Stephen Lawrence, who was a black teenager who was killed by racist white men, and there was uproar about it, deservedly so. But what come from that was that there was institutional racism within the Metropolitan Police Force. So from that, it's gone so far the wrong way. They've tried to solve the racism, but it's gone the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
They're trying to do that here. They're trying to do exactly the same stupid thing here.
And now what you have here is institutional racism, but towards white people.
Exactly.
Who Muslims can never. Actually, it's not really. They still treat black people in this. The police still treat black people in this country unfavourably as well. It's just the Muslim community that they really tiptoe around.
But is it because, Tommy, this is important, is it because the, like David Cameron and the people that run the government are in thrall to the Saudis and the other Muslims that are there that have so much money and aren't out picketing in the streets, that they don't want to upset the Muslim community in general? Or how many of these people that you run into all the time are actually on the take for the country and there's nothing you can do because they're getting money from the government, from you, again, from people that work? I mean, how is this all intermingled? Because it's such a mess.
It's a complete mixture of the two. It's a mixture of the two. It's a mixture of people who are in it to line their own pockets, which many people are. If you look at our stock market, I think it's now 50% owned by Muslim money. You look at our major shopping centres, our major football clubs. I think every port in Britain is owned by Saudi and Qatar.
So, I remember when Harrods got purchased, yes.
Yeah, so the infrastructure of the country in many ways. But also this whole fear. If you look at, we had race riots, which were, again, they're called race riots, but they weren't. They were Muslim riots, and they were in Bradford, which cost the economy.
When did you have that? Because we didn't hear anything about that here. Nothing.
Well, this was 2001.
Never, not a word.
2001, and it was massive riots. And since then, it seems to be that the Muslim community have got concessions, and they use it very well. Their leaders are very good with it because they continually fret the fear of violence. We won't be able to control the youth. And they can get numbers out in the streets very quickly, which scares the authorities, scares the system. So there's a lot of blackmail going on within the Islamic community towards the government as well, to get their own way. And they take to the streets, as you've seen, orchestrated and organised in huge numbers at the click of their fingers. And that fear, and that's the government are in fear of it. But a lot of it comes down to money. And what we have in this country is, we say fear is paralysing, yeah? And the fear, due to how powerful political correctness is in Britain, is what's got everyone tiptoeing on eggshells. And if you look at the Rotherham rape crisis, yeah, which is a rape jihad. It's not. They call it grooming over here. Grooming is something you do to your dog. This is 10, 15 Muslim men. This is 10, 15 Muslim men taking young 11, 12-year-old non-Muslim girls as sexual slaves and doing the most horrific.
But do they actually do that there? They do that.
It's going on across the whole country.
And nobody stops it.
No. Some of the cases, if I tell you one of the cases, which to your viewers, this may sound unbelievable.
No, I want you to tell them.
Just look it up yourself. So there's an 11-year-old girl, and she's in a derelict house, and there's 5 Muslim men who are raping her. Yeah. The police turn up at the derelict house. The police arrested the 11-year-old girl for being drunk and disorderly. They let the 5 Muslim men go. They didn't even arrest them. Now, another case, 2 fathers got together. Their 13 and 14-year-old girls were in a house being gang raped by many Muslim men. They went to the house to try and get their daughters back. The police turned up and arrested the fathers for breach of the peace. So the police, I know it sounds unbelievable, but we've said for years, and a lot of the things we've said have now been proven right with these reports. We've said there's been a conspiracy of silence with religious leaders, police leaders, community leaders, Labour councillors, Labour government, a conspiracy to suppress, facilitate and accommodate the rape of all of our young girls. And what's come out in these police reports is the top police officers, a lot of them are saying it was through fear of being branded a racist, that they couldn't tackle it. So if you want to try and understand how powerful political correctness is, that's how powerful it is. So much so that it made grown men in positions of power who are there to protect young children, it made them turn a blind eye because the perpetrators were Muslim. That's it.
Because it's important, and you are a very powerful speaker in that what you say you believe in 100%, and that comes across very clearly. And it isn't the kind of, it's what I want people to hear, because it's important, number one, and number two, because it's happening. And it's not just happening there, although it's happening in your place as well. It's for you, it's a microcosm for us, because it's exactly what's taking place here, only on a smaller scale, because here it's so big, people don't notice it as much as they would notice in a smaller area. We have the same rubbish, the same crap. We have Detroit that's now turned into Detroitistan, they call it. It's just absurd because they do what you're saying there. They move in, they take over, and they throw everybody else out.
And it goes like that.
Yes, and it goes like that.
Click of your fingers. The biggest thing which I think we bring to the table is I never prepare for a speech, yeah? Because what I'm talking about is just what I've seen. Yeah? It's experience. So it's not something I've read in a book. I don't need to, and I always argue that when I'm talking to, I've argued with all these experts in Britain, yeah? Experts on multiculturalism. One of them was funny. He used to be the speechwriter for Kofi Annan, is it, in the UN?
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, and I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "He's in Brussels." I said, "You're not even in England." And I said, "Hold on, you're in Brussels, yeah?" And I said, "Where was you brought up?" And he was brought up in Exeter. Now, if you know England, you can't get a whiter place than Exeter. There's no Muslims, there's no mosques. So I just started laughing. I said, "So you're the expert on multiculturalism, who's brought up in Exeter, who lived a privileged life." I said, "I'm from Luton, where there's 26 mosques, yeah, in my town." I said, "But somehow you're preaching to me about multiculturalism."
This is Holly Meredith. I'm getting ready to go to my break. Please come back right afterwards. So much more for you.
Hi, welcome to Muscle Beach, located at 501 East Atlantic Avenue, Delray Beach. We'd like you to join us for some of the finest, hand-picked, shipped daily Prince Edward Island mussels, along with the freshest seafood Delray has to offer.
Hello, good morning. I'm Ray Flo. This is my storage, Lake Worth Storage. We've been here, I guess, about 8 years. It's been great. Love Florida, love the storage business. I was meant for this business. Come with me, we'll go inside. And here's the fantastic staff. Mr. Josh runs it. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
And the quiet one. Look here, Marge. So there you go. All right. So, well, there is a lot to run into storage. There is no silver bullet to make it successful. We've been very successful. So, you got to have a few things. You know, you got to have, of course, the price has got to be right. You got to have a nice staff, congenial people. We have that. Place has to be clean. We have that. And we have to treat people with dignity and very nicely, and we do that. So we've got, you know, the price, the staff. We've been here a long time. We got a good record. Above all, though, it really should be secure. And we have very little problems with that here. We're very secure. We've got 14 cameras there and some more here. So yeah, we're set for the public. We're set up. Excellent.
So I flew to America in 2011, and I flew there for an event in New York. And the reason why I went there was because you are behind us, yeah?
Yep.
So what's happening, I look at Luton, and I try and explain to the rest of my country. Luton is a blueprint, okay? What we've had is 30 years ago in Luton, we had one mosque and 3,000 Muslims, per se, yeah? Now, 30 years ago, if you'd have said to the residents of my hometown, in 30 years' time, you'll have 26, 27 mosques, they'll be attacking your troops in the streets, you'll have every single restaurant in the whole town centre will be halal, you'll have Sharia courts, you'll have marches through the city centre where they're beating themselves. If you'd have said
Oh
all
my
these
God,
things,
they do that in Luton? They do the
oh, they do that,
self-regulation
yeah.
crazy
Go on
stuff?
YouTube and put in Luton Jar Luton.
Oh my God.
But they do all these things, yeah. They celebrated in Luton September the 11th in the streets. A big celebration, yeah. So, but if you'd have said to people 30 years ago, that's what's going to happen in 30 years, everyone in Luton would have said you're mad. That's not going to happen, yeah. So what I'm trying to say now is, in 30 years' time,
What's it
if
gonna
we
be
don't
like?
do something, it's go. When I say they're going to bring Sharia to Britain, people say you're mad. I say no, I foresee. I've seen what's happened in 30 years. I see them. They're more organised now than ever, more funding than ever, more dedicated than ever. There's more Muslim extremists tomorrow than there were yesterday. Okay, it's not going away. It's getting worse. The demographic is terrifying.
Isn't Mohammed the #1 baby name in England?
Mohammed is, yeah.
Shouldn't that scare the hell out of everybody?
Well, what should
Scare the hell out of me.
For the projected growth forecast on the government website for my hometown of Luton, by 2030, which is now 15 years away, the Bangladeshi and Pakistani communities will increase by 70 to 77%.
Oh my God.
Now we have, it's just a basic maths. It's basic numbers, yeah. We have massive problems now, huge problems that if we halted immigration, if we stopped the building of mosques, it will still take us 20, 30 years to somehow try and get to grips with the problems we're facing now.
But if you don't stop it,
if we don't stop and we are building at a rate, an uncontrollable rate, through religious freedom, bigger mosques, mega mosques, super mosques, all the money is coming from Salafism, it's coming from Wahhabi mindset, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar. They're building schools. We've got 100,000 children in Britain, aged 4 to 16, who are currently in madrasas, who when they leave those madrasas, they will be able to recite the Quran word for word without looking at it. Now, this is what's happening right now. And no one is tackling it, which is why when I come to America in 2011, even doing this show now with yourself, I wish someone would have told me, or told us, someone who lived through it 10, 15 years ago, because you're probably 10, 15 years behind, but you're getting there yourself, but you have an opportunity now.
we can stop it.
You can stop it. You can stop it. Now, unfortunately, America, you'll be able to watch what's happening in Europe, and bad things are happening right now in Europe, across Europe, France, Germany, Sweden, all these countries where, until forming the English Defence League, I didn't know how bad these problems were in other European countries. I've since looked at all the situations across Europe, and it's terrifying. And this whole phobia, Islamophobia,
That's all
it's
rubbish.
not, yeah, we are generally looking at what's happening. I've got 3 young children.
Yes.
I've got 3 young children. And the thing that gets me more than anything is that we've now, in Britain, we've bred a generation of cowards. And that's the reality. And I don't, when I look at what they do is, when I look at what's happened to me, I can understand people not wanting to step up either, because you will be persecuted, you'll be violently attacked, you will be... I've had 6 official Osman warnings from the British government, yeah? One so recently as they come round here, they come to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, they woke my wife up, they woke me up, and they gave me a terrorist warning to say that Al-Shabaab have named us in a terrorist video.
Who cares about Al-Shabaab?
Al-Shabaab, you know?
I know who it is, but who cares what Al-Shabaab says?
Well, that's what I said, Al-Shabaab, I'll dial a pizza off them.
Blah, blah, blah.
But
They're petrified. But Tommy,
this
they
is-
sound like they're petrified. They're petrified of these people.
They are. But there's good. Well, we see there's good reason to, in the sense of this is not Mickey Mouse we're going up against. This
No.
is militant Islam. Militant Islam is a killing machine.
And well armed and well moneyed.
Well money, the biggest financed ideology the world's ever seen. And it's spreading globally. It's spreading everywhere. And the same with forced conversion. There's so many now white. I went into the prison system. I was sent to prison for 18 months at the start of the year, in January. And that was for a so-called mortgage fraud going back 6 years. Yeah? When I get off licence, I'm on licence now, but in July, I'm going to talk freely about some of the things that have gone on with the police, which is, to me, it's madness, everything that's gone on. But when I was put in the prison system, our prisons over here are now ISIS training camps. It is terrifying to see with your own eyes. All of the white lads, the English lads, have got huge beards. They're all dedicated to Sharia. Dedicated to Sharia. They're enforcing Sharia in the prisons. In the prisons. So, and all the radicals who are going in there for terrorism, they're just, like in this country, they seem to think the problem's solved when they're stopping these Syria jihadists and they're putting them in prison. That's just adding to the problem, putting them in prison. Because they're now converting some of the most weak and vulnerable people in society who are already willing to break the law. That's why they're in prison. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think in America and hopefully Australia, there's some countries and maybe Canada.
Well, Australia looks like they're fighting back. They're trying to deport as many of them as they can.
Yeah, but it's still. I done a program in there 60 minutes. They've still got. Everyone is just still not dealing with it.
They're
full on.
afraid to say it. You have to come right out and say it. Muslims are dangerous, violent animals.
Islam taken literally is a danger to our society, and there's not enough. I know, like I left the English Defence League. I've met many Muslims who are opposed to the extremism.
But they don't say anything. You never see them out there saying anything. Here,
and if they do,
nothing.
If they do, it's irrelevant anyway. At present, I say I can think, yeah, he's a lovely bloke. He's great. He's opposed to extremism. But where was he on 7/7? And when we talk about a minority, they only needed a minority. 19 people brought America to its knees. 19 people. Four people killed 52 on our 7/7 bombings, but we forget 700 people lost their limbs. So, and these attacks, we've already foiled, I think, 3 or 4 major attacks this year. Terrorism arrests and cases have gone up 60% every year. So at current, I think in Britain we have 3,500 would-be terrorists who wish to kill and murder us, who are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by our security services. It costs
Why don't they deport them?
£9 billion a year it's costing. But it's all very well. If we've got 3,000 now, with the demographic and the growth, that 3,000 in 20 years would be 30,000.
But why don't they deport them?
The European Court of Human Rights.
I know, but why don't you get the hell out of the EU?
Well, that's
what a waste that is.
If you look now, if people watch, which we've been saying for years, there's a swing from left to right across Europe. Yeah?
Hopefully.
And there's no politician, there's no police force, there's no left-wing organisation, there's no Muslim organisation that's going to be able to stop it.
I hope so.
It's the sheer will. Whether it be Marie Le Pen in France, the Swedish Democrats, in Holland you've got Geert Wilders, in Britain everyone's now gone for the UK Independence Party because we need out of Europe and we need someone that's going to tackle these issues. But that's happening across Europe. We've seen the development of Pegida in Germany, which is huge at present.
Yeah, they booed her down the other day, Angela Merkel. She wanted them to be tolerant. That's the first time on camera that you've really seen her get booed down. They didn't want to hear it.
Didn't they?
No.
See, that's good. But because what it is, it's the. I say so many times, our politicians don't have their finger on the pulse. When you live in these communities, I know. So we're leading the English Defence League. There's not one non-Muslim who's ever ever, where I live, everyone only shakes my hand. If I thought I was doing something wrong, then other people would think I'm doing something wrong. But all I get off everybody is, it has to be quietly. People don't want to publicly support, but they all say, keep going, mate, keep doing it, keep doing it. Everyone, everywhere I go.
They're not willing to take the heat, Tommy. You are.
No, I don't blame them. But I am now, but I wasn't at the same time because, as I said, I used a fake name and I hid behind a mask because I didn't want to be the person saying it. Because I quite enjoyed my life having a before all of this, and it's like I said, I don't know. I was toying with that the whole time through the English Defence League, and even now I've got 3 young children. And I don't want them bearing the brunt of being my children. So it's difficult.
It's a difficult road. No, it's a hard road to go. But at the end, if we don't do something, you there, myself here, people who wake up in Germany, and Marine Le Pen, and Geert Wilders, and the people in this, if you don't, everybody, all of us, face reality, we won't have a life.
No, it's that's the biggest thing that gets me is when Muslims burn poppies. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen them. When they've done that. No. Well, when they set fire to poppies on our Remembrance Day, on Armistice Day, when we're remembering for our armed forces, they set fire to poppies, and I jumped over a fence and I was arrested that day. And when I got home, my wife's nan and her mum, they're all waiting in the house, and they said, "You've been arrested again." And I said, "Yeah," and I don't care, because if a Muslim's going to set fire to a poppy in remembrance of our armed forces, I can go in and try to stop them. But what her nan said is, "It's too late." Yeah? I said, "What do you mean it's too late?" She said, "It's too late. We can't stop it. You can't beat them." Yeah. I said, if everyone had that mindset in the 1930s and 40s, we'd all be German.
You'd all be goose stepping. That's right.
Yeah, we'd all be goose stepping. But what you and the thing that gets me is I think deeply about it, and I look at the previous generations, and I see 14 and 15-year-old children were lying about their age in order to run out and die for their country and protect their country. And now we've got a generation of people who are too scared to even open their curtain and too scared of even being called a racist that's keeping them down. So it's that, for me, that made me look at it and think, like, we have a duty. We have a duty as I have a duty as a father. And the next generation will never forgive our generation for sitting by and doing nothing. They won't. And they will be born. And that's what I look at. I look around Luton, I look around the country, and I just don't think any of us realise what we're about to hand down to our kids.
No, I think some of us realise it.
Yeah, some of us are waking up, and a lot more people are waking up to it. And to be honest, the English Defence League formed 5 years ago. 5 years ago in this country, you couldn't even really talk about Islam, Muslims. People would whisper to you. If say you were having a conversation, they'd say, "Muslims." It's like, did you just whisper the word Muslims? But that's how it was, because that's how people were in fear and political correctness. But a lot of what's happened with the English Defence League and with people, even like myself or in other countries, what it does, it gives inspiration and courage to other people to think, yeah, you know what, we're right. And the truth will always come out. And the truth has come out so many times with the things we've been talking about, extremism, terrorism, Muslim paedophile gangs, all these things we spoke about for years. We were called extremists and far-right mentality. We've been proven right about all of them. And unfortunately, we'll continue to be proven right, because there will be more terrorism, there will be more extremism, more radicalisation, more...
What do you see, and this is important, what do you see from your vantage point, other than we know it has to be stopped, but how do you see it happening? Because here, I think they just all need to be deported and no more mosques built whatsoever, and quite a few other very draconian, stringent measures need to be taken immediately. So what do you see there?
I see that first and foremost we have to stop the building of mosques. Because mosques are more so. See, like, growing up in Luton, we're controlled by orchestrated and organised mosques.
And go back and say how many are now there as compared to how many there were.
Oh, there was one in 1982, first mosque. Now we've got 27.
In one town.
But in a small town. But in Bradford you've got nearly 100. That's another city. You've got but the problem is, say like for example Luton, and then we have a town near Luton called Biggleswade where there's very few Muslims and there's no mosque. Well, the Muslims I know from Biggleswade, and the lads I speak to in Biggleswade say that the Muslims there are not radical, yeah, they're not extreme, and they are quite integrated in small numbers, yeah. But they haven't had an influence telling them not to. They've just been born as Muslims. They're brought up themselves. So it is the influence of the mosque that creates the ghetto. that dictates, whoever funds that mosque dictates what form of Islam. We haven't got Ahmadiyya Muslims in Luton. We have the biggest and fastest growing sect of Islam in Luton is Salafi Wahhabism. And it is radical.
Well,
it
yes.
promotes complete non-integration. But
because the Wahhabis think they are direct descendants of Muhammad.
Yeah. And to live the life of him. And that's where we have a problem. And we have many different sects in Britain. That, we have an Ahmadiyya sect which don't cause any problems in Britain. But then they are hated and viewed as an apostate by the majority. And every time I find a Muslim who is willing to talk out, he's also viewed as an apostate by the majority. So we face probably the most uphill task of our history, I think, in this country.
How do you think, what would be your first step about stopping the mosques? Because I agree with you, and we have had some success here. There have been quite a few towns recently in the last 3 to 4 months, in Tennessee specifically, where they have just said no. They've just said flat out no. You can't build anymore, you're done. Now they're taking heat for that, but they're still doing it anyway.
Well, we find a small victory. We spoke about this for years, right? You stop one and another 10 applications go in. So for other mosques all over. So you might beat one, but whilst you're focusing all your energy on beating that one, there's another 5 that have gone up. And God knows who funded them and God knows who supported them. What we needed, what we were going to do, was you need a national campaign for a referendum on the building of mosques. Completely.
That is a great idea. That's an incredibly good idea.
Because you're trying to stop, when you're trying to stop individual ones, they consume you and they overwhelm you with so many different things that you're trying to stop. And you can't possibly put the time and effort into stopping every single one of them. So you need to concentrate more on a national level that we need a referendum. People are not happy, people feel threatened, our culture, our identity. There are fundamental problems within what mosques are promoting. When the mosques are promoting Sharia, when they're promoting all these different views that are coming through them. But to stop that or slow that down, you could stop the foreign investment. Straight, that's what we look at. Foreign investment of all religious institutions in Britain. That would include all religious institutions.
But is there anybody else other than the Muslim? Who else is putting money into Britain?
No, that's it. Just Saudi and Qatar.
I was just going to say, that's it.
Just Saudi and Qatar. But
yeah.
End foreign investment. The same when it comes to most of these extremist radicals who are probably on this terror watch have dual nationality. They have dual nationality. They may have a British passport, but they've also got a Pakistani one. So why are we monitoring? Why are we waiting for it to happen? Because it's going to happen. Lee Rigby's killer. Why were we waiting for it to happen? When we were at war with the IRA, we had internment. What
did they ever do with his killer? That goofy, those crazy people who chopped him up in the street. What happened to them?
He's in prison now, radicalising more.
But why didn't he get the death? You don't have the death penalty in England.
We don't have the death penalty.
You don't have the death penalty.
And to be honest with him, he wanted to die. So he wanted to die.
He wanted to be a martyr.
He wanted to be a martyr and he hasn't been. So now he's sat in prison for the rest of his life. And I think that's better for him. But you know what I mean? I have conversations with his brother. His brother's on Twitter. And I don't know, man. There's so much that you're overwhelmed with. There's so much it really needs. And at the same time, I don't know what it's like in America, but what they've done in Britain with us is because we're working class, because we talk a certain way, we walk a certain way, and we act a certain way, we're very easy to stereotype as thugs, which is what they did.
Yeah, I got that impression. Not about you, I just saw what they were doing.
No, in this country, we don't have anyone who's middle class, who's influential, radio hosts, TV presenters, anyone like that who speaks out. We don't have anyone. I know in America, I look to America sometimes, and I looked at a conference held in by Andy Miller from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, that's where they just stopped the one mosque. Uh-huh.
Well, I looked at
we have to go to break. Hold on, hold that thought. Hello, I'm getting ready to go to my break. Please come back after even more titillating information just for you.
Hi there, I'm Annie from Addictions Clothing. Welcome to my store. I have been in business many years. I have an eclectic variety of clothing for all sizes, all ages. We are moderately priced and we're currently in our annual sale. We would hope that you come and find lots of goodies because you won't be able to beat our prices. They're unbelievable. And our hours are from 10 to 4, Tuesday through Friday, or Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 4. And This is Nicholas. He works here on Wednesdays. He has good times with the customers and he entertains the customers as well.
Hi, I'm Maria of My Clean Home Services. Been in business for 5 years now. I specialize in residential and I also do commercial. If you need any references, I can provide that for you upon request. You can give me a call at 954-520-4282 if you have any questions. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
And we also have a Muslim president.
Barack Hussein Obama.
That would be the made-up fake name that he has. Yes, that's him.
Well, look, Holly, I'd love myself to be able to come to America, but at present I'm not allowed to come to America.
Are you as smart as Pamela Geller? Pamela Geller can't go to your country either. I know her very well.
I know, unbelievable. And they use hate speech
Against her.
You see, it's what happened when Gert Wilders was invited to come to Britain. You had Lord Ahmed, who's in the House of Lords. Lord Ahmed, he threatened that 10,000 Muslims would take over Parliament if they let Gert Wilders in. And due to that threat, they didn't let him in.
Oh my
They
God!
refused to let him in.
And he's a member of Parliament of another country. How
They
ridiculous!
refused to let him in. And then the same with Pamela and Robert. What they done with Pamela and Robert, it was sheer threats, which is exactly the same as you saw on my charity walk. The threat all the time. The threat. And if you look in this country, we have extremist radical preachers coming from Saudi Arabia, from everywhere, who think that we should be able to beat up women and execute homosexuals, coming into Britain every week talking in mosques. But yet they stopped Pamela and Robert. And what I had is, with the English Defence League, and when I left the English Defence League, and even when I was having discussions with Muslims, I keep saying, well, tell me what they're saying that's wrong. Tell me what Robert or Pamela are saying that's wrong. It's the fact now that the truth has become hate speech.
We're getting ready to wrap up this show. I have really, really enjoyed it, Tommy. Speaking to you is truly a pleasure. I mean, I must tell anybody listening out there, if you pay attention to what he says, everything you say is correct and honest and true. You certainly are not a thug. You're certainly not a racist. You're a concerned father living in a country that is being overwhelmed by Muslims.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Holly, and thank you for having me on. And the one thing, the reason why I wanted to do this, the reason why I wanted to come to America when I come in 2011, is to warn people. It's because, look, we're living it. We've already lived it. So I've been from a generation, the first generation that's really experienced these real fundamental differences and problems. So we're talking about, most of these experts talk about things they're reading in books, and this is life experiences, and it's not good. And it may be Luton today, and it may be England today, but it's coming to your town tomorrow.
Yeah, with
It's
our, for
It's
sure.
coming.
Okay, thank you so much, Tommy Robinson. I truly enjoyed every minute. You will be seeing this show up, and anyone can Google it. Plus, I've told a lot of your followers how to get the link. We'll be sending it to them directly because they've been asking.
God bless you. God bless
To
you.
be able to see it, and the same to you. Have all the best.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.